In order to benefit your profits, feed efficiency, the quality of your cattle, you have to know how to feed correctly and proper nutrients needed to grow cattle. You have to know how to score their body condition on whether they need more feed, less feed, higher proteins. You just need a lot of information in order to increase your profitability in beef cattle. One thing that I find very important is knowing how to score cattle, and it's scored on a scale of 1 to 9. It was made by the Journal of Animal Science in 1988. 1 being severely underweight, weakened, all ribs present, hip, pin bones present, no fat, no muscle. And then up from there would be a 2 or a 3. They aren't weakened but are also severely underweight, do not show very little muscle or fat, and just aren't generally up to where you would want them to be. Now, a 4 is considered borderline. They have a little bit of muscle, a little bit of fat, but aren't generally where we want them. They have a couple ribs covered, but still tail head and hip and pin bones are present. Now, up from there is considered optimum, like 5 and 6, where they have muscle, they have fat. You usually can see like the 12th and 13th rib, but overall they're pretty well covered and show that they would be productive. And any higher than that is considered obese or like overweight. Like a 7 and 8 would be they show fat throughout, excessive fat throughout the brisket, can show it in the udder, over the tail head, and then a 9 would be like super excessive fat, very fleshy, does not show that it could be productive, like too much fat in the udder, just decreases mobility and production. Now, in order to know what to do with your cattle, you have to know where they rate on that scale. Lower scores would obviously need more feed, more protein, need to be brought up in their weight. Lower scores, higher scores would need less, need to be brought down in their weight. There is a bunch of different types of feed. There's 8 kinds. Dry forages and roughages, which is just like cut and cured products, greater than 18% crude fiber. Pasture range plants and forage fed fresh is basically anything that they get while they're out in the pasture or is cut fresh and then given to them immediately after. Silages and hayages is plant material preserved through insulation process, forages like corn, alfalfa, grass. Energy feeds are products with less than 20% crude protein. Protein supplements are greater than 20% crude protein and are from non-ruminant animals. There's often mineral and vitamin supplements that are given when they're lacking it from the ground or from other feeds. There's also non-nutrient additives, which are things that don't help their nutrition, basically, like antifungals, antibiotics, antioxidants, stuff like that, that isn't necessarily to help them gain or lose weight. And to go from there, in order to know what is in a feed bag when you feed your cattle, you have to know how to read a feed tag. Now, feed tags are going to include many different numbers and names, and you have to be able to read through all that. It's going to like have the trade name, the product name, product type, and purpose statement, cautions, active drug warnings, if there is an active drug in the feed you are feeding. It's usually going to be in a white tag at the bottom line, at the bottom, like, white tag. It's usually going to be in a white tag at the bottom of the bag. And it's going to list things like crude protein, crude fiber, crude fat, which is just basically how much fat, protein, fiber there is in there. And you want to be able to know how to get the best amount of all of those things without overpaying, which is basically profitability in your cattle, because you're also increasing the quality of your cattle by feeding them this higher quality feed, but you're not paying as much for it, which is a diagram I have up here. For example, we got like soybean and then linseed, and this is the amount of crude protein they have. This is how much they cost. Now, in order to figure out which one would be a better buy, you have to take the money and you divide it by 48, and that would give you how much it costs per pound. Now, in order to have this correct, you have to make sure that this is per 100 pounds. So you would put 8.4 divided by 48 equals, and then 38, scratch that out, 5.8 divided by 38 equals, and that would give you how much it costs per pound. Yeah. All right, and when divided out, the soybean would be 17 cents roughly, rounded to 18, and the linseed would be 15 cents rounded. So it would be a better buy to buy this, even though it has less crude protein, because it's cheaper and you can feed more. I don't know where it goes. Another thing to be aware of in cattle is the amount they're eating and if they're not eating enough or they're eating improperly. Teeth is not very well, like checking the soundness of a mouth isn't very well known, but it could be important in some scenarios, because if cows aren't getting feed, they definitely aren't producing. So that's definitely something to think about, and if you have a cattle that's performing poor or has a poor quality amongst others that are not. Another thing to think about is the aging of an animal by teeth. The aging of an animal by teeth is basically by how many or the wear on their teeth. If they have their two front teeth, two permanent front teeth, it means that they're 2 years old. And every year until 5 after that, they get 2 front teeth. So if they were 4, they'd have 6 permanent front teeth. After the age of 5, most aging is done by the wear and tear on the teeth instead of how many there are. And as cattle get up in age, they tend to lose teeth occasionally.
You're at 15.
Yeah, just trying to figure out how I want to end it. Because then I'm gonna have to go back and edit everything. So basically, in order to feed cattle and get the most profitability out of your livestock, you have to know how to evaluate where they are on their body score. You have to evaluate the feed efficiency and how to feed them with cheapest but most highest quality grain, and you have to be able to know what they need in their diet to perform the best.